my favourite car. Now, for those of you who don't know the story of me and the Merc A45, last year I did a video review of my father's CLA 45. And long story short, basically, it was about 25 minutes of me completely tearing that car apart. To say I didn't like it is something of an understatement. Now, as it happened, most people agreed with my assessment of that car. But a few people, including some I do trust when it comes to cars, told me that actually the facelift version of the car was significantly improved, particularly in terms of the engine and gearbox, areas that I did heavily criticise at the time. So, when my friend Steve's girlfriend acquired this, admittedly very sexy looking A45 Yellow Night Edition, I said, can I have a go and find out maybe that I was wrong? So, let's take it out and see. Now, I'm not doing much of a walk around or an introduction today for a couple of reasons. Number one, I don't really want to. I want this to be a differences video comparing this car with my previous experience. Okay. I think that was it panicking that I was about to hit a wall. It was just a steep slope. Now, the other reason is we've got a storm coming in basically, and I want to get some miles on this car while it's simply a little bit damp out there rather than it chucking it down, because I want to be as fair to the car as I possibly can, honestly. Now, a little bit of the spec about this car. This is the Yellow Night Edition. It's basically a run-out special of the A45 because pretty much the model is gone now. They are still selling them. You'll find them at the odd Mercedes dealership, but I don't know whether they're actually taking factory orders anymore. However, the A-Class is slowly being replaced now. So if you actually go on their website and try and find out anything about this car, it's pretty difficult. So you'll see a link to the Yellow Night and you click it and then you basically just get led down a rabbit warren and you wind up at an A200 diesel. So that's not very helpful, Mercedes, when it comes to researching cars. Now, the Yellow Night Edition, so far as we can tell, is mostly a cosmetic thing. So it was available in a few different colours. This is in black, and I'll be honest, I want to start with some positives. It looks mean, and I really like the little yellow accents, and I like the aero kit, which on the Yellow Night is standard. You also get a privacy glass at the back and a lot of other nice touches. You get these little yellow vents in here, you get this yellow stitching. It certainly looks quite nice. I still don't like this stupid ass iPad nailed to the screen, and I don't like the fact that it's very button centric. There's buttons everywhere. There are a couple of buttons that I am particularly interested in. That's the one for the exhaust, which basically makes it a bit quieter. Although, see, I don't think it actually, when you press it, you can't hear a massive difference in it. So what it's doing, I think, is probably changing the amount of obscene pops and bangs that it delivers when when you're lifting off. The other button in here, and something that was missing from the CLA 45, was this suspension button. Now, the car's got the adaptive suspension. It's actually a very cheap option. It's only like 500 or 600 quid, which is, as these things go, very reasonably priced. Now, you can drive the car in one of two modes, comfort or sport. Currently got it in sport, and I'm going to switch to comfort, and there is a difference. There is a definite difference. Oh, I think I might have collected that birdie. Did I collect him? Do you want to go and have a look? Ah, joys of YouTubing. No. The birdie lived! Hey!
He's alive!
He's alive! Okay, so let's carry on. The brakes work. So the brakes are 350mm discs at the front, 330mm at the back. They definitely work. They work so well, in fact, that a birdie could owe his life to them. The car's probably now got a nice little white spot on the front where we gave him a bit of a fright, but other than that, it's okay. Now, the gearbox is definitely improved over the old car. Now, in the review that I did, when I first drove my father's car, the gearbox was abysmal, really awful. Then, about a year after ownership, he took it to service and they basically replaced the software. They updated it and it did improve drastically. This is better again, and this is really the benefit of having this kind of gearbox, is that with software alone, you can improve it considerably. Now, another option that this car has is the driver's performance pack. Was it the performance? What was it called? The performance pack or something?
Plus.
Okay, it's got the Dynamic Plus pack, something along those lines, whatever it's called. Long story short, that includes the adjustable suspension and it includes a limited slip diff on the front. Now, if you weren't aware, this car is all-wheel drive. It's what Mercedes brand 4MATIC. Basically, it's a Haldex style system. So for the most part, this is a front-wheel drive car. Then, as and when is required, it's a rear-wheel drive car. Now, this car is also very heavy. In the real world, you put this on actual scales. I'm going to ignore whatever the manufacturer quotes. I don't even know what it is, but I do know what they actually weigh, which is a shade under 1,600 kilos. For a car of this type, that's not light. That's basically equivalent with the Focus RS, and for people who expect their hatchbacks to weigh basically a ton, obviously it's an enormous figure. The reality is that all cars now weigh more than they do in 1985 because more people survive their accidents that they haven't. Critically though, this is 200 kilos heavier, give or take, than the Civic Type R that I drove the other week. And that's a not inconsiderable sum. Now, what that car was missing was about 60 horsepower and the drive to the rear wheels. And in wet conditions, that car did struggle a little bit. This is running now 380 horsepower. It's about 20 up on what the pre-facelift A's were. And it's about 350 pound-foot of torque. That's a huge sum from a little 2-litre engine. Now, one of the issues that I had with the car before was the massive, massive turbo lag. And I did a test to check for that, and a lot of people disagreed with how I did the test. So I'm going to do it again. I'm going to give the car an even better chance. So I'm going to get out of this 30 limit, and here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to put the car into third at 30 miles an hour. That's 2,800 RPM. According to Mercedes' own literature, this car can generate peak torque from 2,250 RPM. I am smack bang right in the middle of the car's torque band. There is no reason this car shouldn't be able to give me decent response. And I won't start from off the throttle, I'll actually start from part throttle as well to make it even fairer and give the car an even better chance. Now, last time I did this, the turbo lag was comical, but the car has allegedly improved. So, we get at this 30 limit, we've got a 40 coming up, and I'll just do a simple 30 to 40 pull and see how much better, if at all, that throttle response is. For reference, we are also in Sport Plus mode, so the car should be at its sharpest and edgiest and everything else. Okay, so here we go. So, about 2,700 RPM, 30, and foot down. It's still quite laggy. Is it better than before? Yes, probably a little bit. It's odd, this car, because sometimes it pulls like you think it will, and sometimes it doesn't. It is geared quite short. It also makes a lot of farts. I think the sport mode really is just making it fart a lot more. I'm not entirely sure I'm keen on that. Downshifting is great. Downshifting now they seem to have perfected, although I think downshifting was always better last time out anyway. See, in second gear it just doesn't pull like I think a car with these stats, an all-wheel drive, should. And it's only geared for about 50 miles an hour in second as well. It's odd. I don't believe the numbers. I really don't. Maybe it's because it's heavy, but this car should pull harder. The numbers on this car are way better, for example, than my Subaru, and it doesn't feel like it's pulling that hard. Gearbox is definitely better. That's probably the area of biggest improvement. The ride is definitely better. Actually, no, let me change my mind here. The ride is miles better than it was. The gearbox is considerably improved. In fact, no, see, then this is what it does. I was off throttle, I was about 3,500 RPM, and I pressed up to change, and it just waited. See, that when you're really on it, when you're really pressing, it'll give you what you ask for. Like, there we go. So when I'm on it, when I'm off, sometimes it'll do it, sometimes it won't. This is what I found. It's a car that kind of breaks your rhythm a bit. There. Okay, so I'm hoping on this camera you can see that. That Sport Plus, that's its sportiest mode. That's a little bit better, but if you're not on it, it doesn't want to shift. It's bizarre. Oh, race. Oh, you're in race mode now. Okay. Let's see if it's any better. No. Doesn't like it. It doesn't. Maybe it's just the way it's been programmed and it's been told to basically wait. You know, the idea is that if you're not on the throttle, you just want a smooth gear shift. Now, maybe that was their intent. Maybe that's how they've programmed it. But for me, if I tell it to change gear, I want it to change gear. And now. That was okay. One thing I did find quite funny is that when Steve and his other half were looking for cars, I suggested the Civic Type R. Apparently that looks too leery. Fair enough. So another thing that we noticed yesterday with this car was I went to go and see Steve and I took my Subaru. I parked the Subaru next to this, and this was massive in comparison. I think the Subaru is a big, tall car because of the sort of car that I'm used to. I parked next to this, and I was looking up at it. The bonnet on this thing is like that much taller than the Scooby. Seriously, it's a very, very tall car. And when you sit in it, especially if you put yourself in a nice low driving position like I tend to like, you suddenly find yourself, I mean, I'm actually elevated in the seat here, and for me in a car, this like never happens. You wind up sitting sort of like down here, and you feel like you're in a car twice the size. You know, some cars shrink around you, this one grows around you. It's a bit weird. I don't like the Alcantara stuff. That's, you know, a well-known bugbear of mine. I think on here in particular, it looks actually quite cheap and nasty. Okay, you want to let me out? All right, you got right away. It would have made life easier. Never mind. Yeah, I think what's going on with this gearbox is it's always trying to make its mind up as to whether you want a smooth or a sporty shift, and I want to tell it. If I want a comfy shift, I'll put it into comfort mode. If I want a sporty shift, I'll put it in sporty mode. Yeah. I don't want it constantly making its mind up. Oh, no, this is the last bit where I had problems with the car, with the sort of getaway bit. See, it does it again. It's not as it's improved over the last car, but it does the same thing. The throttle pedal in this is probably a little better. The last one had this weird thing that Mercedes seemed to do, where you've got to put the throttle pedal nearly half the way down before it does anything. This one is better, definitely. They have improved that. But still, you have this issue of you're trying to pull out and you put your foot down, and then the car takes a moment to get itself together, and then it starts moving, and then the turbos spool up. So without you actually moving your foot at all, it basically goes from, I'm going to pull out, to, whoa, now I'm going to just fire you into the road. So you go from sort of nearly getting hit up the arse by someone to nearly hitting the guy in front of you up the arse, and it's just not an awful lot of fun, if I'm honest. These seats are not... They're a little bit better than they were before. They're still quite stiff for a nice big seat for a Mercedes. The thing is, and this is the problem I had before, so one of the reasons I got criticised in the last video was I kept comparing this car with the C63. And people kept telling me, no, it's a completely different car, yada yada, it's more expensive, yada yada. No. If you go on the used market, if you've got about 30 grand, you can buy one of these or you can buy a C63. So as far as I'm concerned, it's a valid comparison. And they also both have AMG badges on. And I think when most people think of an AMG, they think of something like the C63. And the C63, for all of its sort of, muscle car pretensions really, it's still a very nice, comfy cruiser of a car. And that's just not what I get from this, really. It's a bit odd. There is also this slightly awkward fact that the retail price on one of these, and I appreciate that very few people hopefully ever paid that, is about 52 grand for what is ultimately a Megane in a dress. It's a very fast Megane, I'll grant you, but when you buy a Mercedes, that's not really what you want, is it? Okay, conclusion time. Is the car still absolutely awful? No. Is it better than it was? Yes. Would I ever recommend anyone to buy one? No. Did I try and talk Steve out of buying this one? Yes. Unfortunately, the other car he was considering was an M4. The other car I really, really don't like at all. So, you know, rock in a hard place. Kind of like the Abarth 595, this looks very good. Sounds okay, I suppose, for a 4-pot, it's not great. And at least, unlike the 595, it does shift, even if it doesn't shift anywhere near as quickly as it really should. I hope you've enjoyed today's short and different little video. Have you got one of these? Do you think I was wrong to hate it ever? Let me know. Thanks for watching. Please hit the like button, subscribe, comment, do all the things that you do, and I'll see you guys on the next one. Bye-bye.